Hello there and welcome to a brand new episode of Hala Kuwait. My name is Tariq Al-Aryan and we're coming to you live tonight from the Ministry of Information Studios right here in downtown Kuwait. And I hope everyone out there is having a great evening wherever you may be watching tonight's episode of the program. As usual, the camera crew have been very busy filming all around the state of Kuwait. We have a lot of great reports to get you caught up on tonight's episode of the program. Also, we have some distinguished guests who will be joining us right here in the studio very shortly. But first off, we'd like to get to our first report this evening right here on Hala Kuwait. And let's take a look at this report on UN migration. Stay tuned.
On the occasion of the International Domestic Workers, the International Organization for Migration in Kuwait marked the day with a series of events managed in cooperation with the Social Work Society. Approximately 660,000 women work as cleaners, nannies, cooks, and laundresses for Kuwaiti households. Most come from Southeast Asian states such as the Philippines and Indonesia. A growing number are labor migrants from sub-Saharan Africa. IOM began its outreach to households and household workers 2 days before the date's official observance at Kuwait's Avenues Mall on 14th and 15th of June. IOM staff distributed cards reading "Thank you" to employers of domestic workers, with the encouragement to offer those cards to domestic employees and their households as a token of families' appreciation. Domestic workers were also encouraged to visit an information booth managed by IOM staff to receive flowers and colorful frames where they may keep their thank you cards. This outreach activity was the first of its kind and was well received by the public.
Well, we're back right here on the program, and our first guest that we have tonight, we have with us Mayada Serageldin, and she is a project officer at the UN Migration. Welcome to our program.
Thank you, Tariq, for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on our program, Mayada, and tell us a little bit now about, to our audience, a little bit about the campaign that was recently held and what took place and the aims and objectives of it. I think a little bit of it was on our first report, correct?
Yes, it was.
That was an outreach event, I think, at one of the local malls. So elaborate more. Tell our audience about what took place.
Gladly. The video that we just watched was part of our outreach program for the International Domestic Workers Day. It's the 16th of every June. So this year we decided to celebrate it. We were based at the Avenues Mall, and for that we have to say thank you for Al-Mabani company because they were very welcoming to us. We were stationed at the Avenue for the weekend leading up to the 16th, so Friday and Saturday, 14th and 15th. And we basically joined hands with employers who were at the Avenues throughout the weekend with their domestic workers to say thank you.
Tell us a little bit about how the outreach went in that event.
It was a very successful venture. We were joined by Social Work Society. They are our extended family here in Kuwait. And we had prepared thank you notes for employers to give to their employees. And we also prepared symbolic giveaways from IOM to the domestic workers as a gratitude. The campaign had several aims, since you asked me about them. The first was basically to work on the relationship between employers and employees. The second was to harmonize the concept of having a good relationship between employer, employee, and to raise awareness between both sectors, because both categories don't really understand that there's a domestic workers law. And a lot of the feedback that we have received, it seems that a lot of people are not very aware of it. And we felt it's our duty to help push the message forward, especially with the government of Kuwait being the leading in the region on issuing a law specifically dedicated to domestic workers. So we'll get into that a bit
later on in our interview. So part of the purpose was to, let's say, educate the public that there is a law, and hopefully have a communication between the worker and the employee, correct?
Yes,
good to hear that. That's always important to do. And I know the campaign was held in cooperation, as you did say, with the Social Work Society. What other projects and activities does the International Organization for Migration have with the Social Work Society?
Like I said, Social Work Society are our extended family here in Kuwait.
So you work with them a lot then, huh?
Very closely. The cooperation started with working for the shelter, the government-run shelter for foreign workers. IOM has one of our ongoing services. It's called Assisted Voluntary Return and Reintegration, where we help the beneficiaries at the shelter return back to their countries of origin, and we help them reintegrate back into society. The one thing that we cannot do here in Kuwait is provide legal support and assistance if at any point in time the beneficiary is faced with a legal case or an absconding file against her. This is when we refer them to Social Work Society, because as you may know, they are a group of pro bono lawyers, and they take on their cases as far as the case has to go. Once the file is cleared, they refer them back to us, and this is when we return them home. Lately, we started to expand our cooperation with Social Work Society. We've organized a number of fun days at the shelter, and we started doing the outreach as well. In the weekend leading up to the International Domestic Workers Day, we did the outreach for the society at large at the avenues. We also organized a fun day for the beneficiaries at the shelter on the 16th. And
so very busy weekend then, huh?
It was a very busy weekend.
Well, that's great. I know it was very successful, well covered. We enjoyed watching that report as well as our audience. I'm sure they did. So tell us a little bit more about some of the other projects held between the International Organization for Migration and other non-profit organizations and charity entities. Tell us a little bit more, please.
Of course. IOM has been in Kuwait for 25 years. We have worked with a great number of NGOs and not-for-profit organizations. Recently, we have worked with Al-Rahma International Society. We provided medical checkups for migrant workers or temporary contractual workers at the UN House. We also worked with refugee families here in Kuwait, also on medical checkups. We've worked with the Aware Center on organizing not one but two cultural symposiums in effort to build bridges between cultures. Thank you.
So tell us now a little bit, how does Kuwait, of what you've seen, support the case of migrants in general outside of Kuwait?
Where to start?
It's a very long,
open-ended
kind of question.
My chief of mission,
kind of briefly tell us about that.
My chief of mission has a booklet on her desk that it's called Kuwait Inspiring Hope. It just tells us history of what the Kuwaiti government has helped us to do.
Touch on a few things that you may think are pertinent to the audience, please.
Okay, I can tell you that in the past 10 years during the crisis in the region, Yemeni, Syrian, Iraqi, and the Yemeni, Syrian, and Iraqi crises, we were able to relocate 20,000 stranded migrants with the help of the generous funding of the Kuwaiti government. Just off the top of my head.
Well, that's a really nice deed, and I'm sure, as you said, there's a big booklet at one of your bosses at the office there, and there's a lot more that could be said about that. We have some other questions to get to, so tell us more about labor in Kuwait, and how does Kuwait protect the rights of domestic workers, especially with the anti-trafficking law officially established in 2013, which ensures the rights of domestic workers that they're fully protected, which you touched on at the beginning of our interview. Please take some time to elaborate on that.
I'm happy to. We can never stress this enough. The Kuwaiti government has been a pioneer in the field of countering trafficking in the region. Starting with the counter-trafficking law issued in 2013, just a year after, the Ministry of Interior established a very successful, very efficient counter-trafficking unit within its operations. And we work with them very closely. Whether it's they work on criminal investigations, whether they are faced with potential cases that need referrals or protection assistance, whether these cases are escorted to the shelter, we work with them very closely. Again, in 2014, the same year the unit was established, the government shelter started to run. And it's being coordinated and overseen by the Public Authority for Manpower, with whom we also work very closely. And I have to say they are a very capable team. We're only lucky to be working with them. And if that wasn't enough, in 2015, exactly, in 2015, the Kuwaiti government took another lead in issuing a law specially dedicated for domestic workers, admitting them as a sector in the labor field, which is a huge breakthrough. And this is when other countries in the GCC started to follow. And last year, there was a decree that mandated the move of the portfolio in full to the Public Authority for Manpower, so it's consolidated among other sectors. This is just
a brief about
it. A brief about it, exactly.
Well,
this is what I can tell you.
Great to hear, and it's a pleasure to have you on our program, Mayada. And at the end of our interview, do you have any last words or comments for the audience watching Hala Kuwait tonight?
I would like to extend IOM's gratitude for all the partners that we've had over the years. I would definitely start with the Kuwaiti government, and I move on to the different ministries that we've worked with. I would give special tribute to the volunteers who joined us at the shelter for the 16th of June. They dedicated their time and their effort to come and entertain the women at the shelter, so it was very generous and very kind of them.
Well, that's great to hear, and we wish you and all your colleagues all the best of luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure speaking to you. We're speaking to Mayada Serageldin, and she is a project officer at the UN Migration. And we thank her so much for her time with us right here on the program. Let's now move on to our next report right here on Hala Kuwait. Stay tuned.